Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:30 PM and a quorum of members is present. So the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby?
Here.
Mr. Helmer? Ms. Connick?
Here.
Mr. Kurth?
Here.
Ms. Schultz?
Here.
Mr. Seidel?
Here.
Ms. Spindler?
Here.
Mr. Helmer let me know he's unable to attend this evening. I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session.
Madam President, I move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, 1C, E, and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of February 12th, B, the employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff, D, discuss and approve employee handbook, D, the class size update, E, the security infrastructure presentation.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Ms. Crosby. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kurth?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Ms. Connick?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Seidel?
Yes.
Ms. Spindler?
Yes.
We are moving into closed session and we'll return to open session around 7 o'clock. It is now 7:10 PM, and we are returning from closed session into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. For all those who are able, please rise.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. Do we have anybody for privilege of the floor this evening?
No.
Okay. I do not have a message this evening, so we'll move into the administrative team report.
I'd like to have our New Berlin West administrative team please come up. As the board knows, we are doing school updates, and they have the opportunity to be the very first ones to present to you on happenings over at New Berlin West.
I just asked Angelina if she wanted to present. She said she's got her part set, so she's here. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. I'm happy to be here as the principal of New Berlin West with my counterparts. I will just let them introduce themselves as they go. We are very proud to be able to present to you this evening and share some highlights from New Berlin West. So with that, we will just jump right in. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or ask at the end.
Yeah, we would ask that we hold off on questions till the very end. Thanks.
The first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about student performance as it relates to the area of literacy. And when we look at our benchmark indicators, we look at our 7th and 8th, actually into 9th grade benchmark assessment data that will actually move to the Wisconsin Forward exam. The data you're going to see tonight is the A reading and auto reading information on the FastBridge, which is our progress monitor. So the FastBridge benchmarks, you'll see those are the same as those you have seen in the past. The one bit of information I wanted to share with you is on the bottom of that slide is that we actually have 3 years of data in FastBridge now. So you're going to see a 3-year rolling information that we weren't able to see before tonight. As we jump into this first slide is showing grade level performance starting winter 2021 to winter 23-24. You'll see a couple things on this slide. One of the things you'll see is that our 7th grade performance has stayed very close to the same, but it is trending downward just slightly. We expect that to change as we move forward. But the other things you'll see is you should see some progressional growth in the 8th and 9th grade. So not to spend a lot of time here, but you're going to see that progressional growth, and it will show a little bit better in slides like this one. So this is one, which is our current 9th grade class, and you're going to see the performance they had in 7th grade and then the winter of 8th grade, and then this year winter of 9th. So solid growth for that group of students in that area. And this is a straight cohort comparison of our current 8th to current 9th grade students, and another significant jump in this area. A reading we know focuses on comprehension. Auto reading that we're moving into focuses a little bit more in the fluency area. Again, looking at these charts, you'll see some progressional growth. There's a little bit more fluctuation in here. So the last one, you saw a pretty straight trend line right to the top. We know that success doesn't always move in a straight line, so I'm going to show you some bumps in that line on this one a little bit as we move forward. So generally moving in the right direction. This is a cohort group of 7th graders, last year to 7th graders this year, and you'll see a slight drop in that area this year. One of the things that we found out from our teaching staff, we gave this exam during the final exam period for our students. And for our middle school students, that final exam period is really built for high school students. And what we found out is that our middle school students may not have held the focus, at least that's the feedback that we got from our teachers. during that time period. So we're going to shift that time as we give this assessment in the future. And we expect to see a little bit different results. That's the one area that we did drop this year. You'll see, again, a 7th grade to 9th grade cohort group in auto reading, and you see significant growth in that arena as well. Whalen?
Trudy Whalen, one of the associate principals at New Berlin West. I'm going to share some of the math data similar to what Michael just went through as far as the FastBridge assessment and some of the screening data that we had for that. So the two tests that we're going to take a look at are A-Math and then the automaticity. So kind of as we move into this, just a couple, I guess one reminder is that we don't test kids outside of algebra. So sometimes we have some 7th graders, 8th graders, 9th graders that are in geometry or beyond. So they might be part of a cohort 1 year, and then after that they won't. So you'll see some of those scores. They would be considered in some of that data as we look across that 3-year trend. So kind of the first piece here, the A-Math. So this is going to measure more of the problem-solving skills and kind of screen there. So this is the different grade levels across 3 years. So what you'll notice is in grade 9, we've seen improvement over the last 3 years with our 9th grade students. This isn't a cohort, so this is just looking strictly at those grade levels. So you'll see some fluctuation in the other 2 grades, but kind of falling. 7th grade is kind of similar from year to year. 8th grade has a little more fluctuation, but in that 9th grade, we're trending upward, which is good to see. Our 7th to 8th grade cohort for A-Math, you'll notice that it's slightly trending upward. There's a little note on the side there related to the numbers that I shared. So we have 12 8th graders right now that are in geometry this year. So those 12 students would have been in our data from the fall. And then also not in the most recent group of students. So happy with that trend. And then our cohort from 8th to 9th grade, A-Math again, winter to winter. That one has a little bit more of a decrease in there. We have 63 students that would have been in that first cohort or that first group in winter last year that are not in this year because they're in geometry this year. And then our automaticity scores, this is where we see a little bit more fluctuation, I'll say, from fall to winter. So this one was a little bit surprising. So we have some work to do here for each of the grades. This is not a cohort, so this is just strictly for 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade from the fall and then the winter. 7th to 8th grade automaticity. So we did see an increase here, which was good to see because some of our math teachers last year had focused on automaticity with our 7th graders, just given some of the data that we saw. Again, those 12 8th graders would be in last year's winter scores, but not this year's. This one had a little bit of a decrease from that cohort from 8th grade to 9th grade. Again, those 63 students. But there was a decline there. And then I'm just going to kind of highlight a couple of the math pieces here and then pass this back to Mr. Feisenmeyer. But some of the things to kind of highlight are the percentage of students, 9th grade students that kind of bumped up on that first slide, that growth we've seen overall with our 9th grade students. The percentage of students actually meeting the benchmark in automaticity and A-Math for that screener from our 7th to 8th grade cohort, we were very pleased with that data as well. And then one thing to kind of highlight is our math teachers this year focused their student learning outcomes on math growth. And so even in the winter here where we have our mid-year meetings with teachers, we're having conversations about that FastBridge data and kind of some of the things that they're doing in their classroom to help improve some of those areas that we saw.
And the difficult part for math is math looks so very different than literacy because literacy includes the students all the way through. So Trudy highlighted it, but I'm just going to say it one more time. Just as you see those charts move around, note the number of students that are missing in those charts. In literacy, we're seeing really solid growth, both in A reading and in auto reading. It really shows the positive work that we're doing with literacy, the engagement level that our teachers have with students. The shift in our literacy program over the past 2 or 3 years has really made a difference in our performance, and you can see a pretty straight trend line. You're seeing overall yearly growth, and then the current ninth grade, there's just another chart we didn't drop in here, but it shows some significant growth, so if you want to take a deeper look, you can look there. The other thing is that growth on the FastBridge assessment has definitely shown a growth in our forward exams, and we saw significant growth there. Just some different things that we are doing and some actions that we are taking. We've made a shift in our literacy support this year, where we're actually doing a combined support with our regular education and our special education students. Made a big, big difference in the amount and consistency of time that students are getting in those support areas. So really increased the level of support for all students to be equitable, and is supporting that growth of that lower group of students that really needs that. Math and literacy support, we've done some changes specifically at West, but it's been a conversation district-wide about the processes and collaboration, teachers and the work that they're doing in progress monitoring students in these different areas. Again, it gives us better information and better feedback to be able to identify whether students should be in or not in a support level. At West, we made a significant effort on an upper level focus in literacy, where we're taking those students who are very close to that top tier and trying to encourage and push them into that top tier. A lot of times that middle group gets forgotten in our group of students. We look at the high and we say they're performing well. How do we promote them? The students who are lower and need support, and we miss that middle, and we're trying to touch on that upper middle and move that. And then the other thing, and I think Trudy touched on this too, but a math focus is our student learning targets were a literacy-based focus for the past number of years. They still are connected that way, but we're really looking at learning outcomes related to math this year, so it's been a shift. Just some assessment. Don't have to go deep into this, but it's informational for you. The assessments that we have coming throughout the spring. So we've got the ACT for all juniors on March 12th, pre-ACT in the forward, so that's grades 7, 8, 9, and 10 through all 4 of that will be in the month of April. And then our advanced placement exams, which are by course choice, those will happen. So that's moving on through the end of the year, and just the assessment things that we're working for and preparing for at this. College and career readiness is another area that we focus on, and it shows us being able to measure students in a different way. So when you look at this information and you look at these students, we right now have 77% of our graduating class. I think this is the highest since I've been there, meeting college and career readiness benchmark for this year, which is phenomenal. 56 of those are distinguished, and there's still some people trying to find their way into that distinguished space, retaking ACTs and such, that they can to make that. And then if you look down at that lower level, the one thing I'd like to note there is those are duplicated numbers. So when you look at those percentages, they shouldn't add to 100%. They should add to more than 100% because you could qualify in more than one area. So that does give just the percentage of students in that senior class that have qualified in that area, but there's 4 different ways. So we thought that was important. With that, I believe I'm turning this over to Mr.
Jordan Napoli, Associate Principal, alongside Ms. Whalen over here. I'm going to veer a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the points of pride at New Berlin West, which is our school culture overall. So what I'm going to speak to specifically has to do with a 2-year goal in our school action plan that is really heavily invested in engaging with our staff, our parents, and our students in feedback and direct communication. We measure this in a variety of ways, but the biggest one that we measure it in is our end-of-year survey data, our climate checks that come from all 3 of those different points, staff, parents, and students. We also kind of use our mid-year climate checks with our staff to just get a pulse of where's the building at, how are things going, and we use that to just kind of guide our second semester. Action items that we've used to really dive in and try to increase that community engagement with all those different stakeholders include a couple different things. So when we're talking about staff, we use our staff advisory committees. Those meet once a month during our professional learning days on Wednesdays, 3 to 4 p.m. Those committees are wide-ranging, so our staff will engage in a variety of different things. We have a social emotional learning group, we have a middle school specific culture team, we have a staff advisory committee, we have a sunshine committee, a school spirit committee, and all those different groups engage in some level of culture building or providing feedback to us about ways we can improve our building. We also will do, we work with our staff on just the different climate survey response things that we're getting. We'll engage a lot of times with our staff advisory committee in that regard, and just helps us guide planning and procedure for the upcoming year. From parents specifically, one thing that we do struggle with in our end of year data, we don't always get a ton of parent feedback as opposed to getting a ton from students and a ton from staff. So what we've tried to do over the last 2 years is do some feedback and listening sessions and just engaging with our parents in a different way. This year we did them all virtually, where last year we did them in person. So in Q2, Mr. Fesenmeyer held one that was solely around academic and career planning, just helping helping parents learn a little bit about, what opportunities are available for your child in terms of planning their academic path throughout high school. In the Q3, which is coming up next month, Ms. Whalen and I will be holding a session specifically focused on middle school. Last year when we did that session, we actually had some parents from Ronald Reagan that joined the meeting, I think thinking it was going to be more transition focused. And so out of that, we said, well, this year we'll invite Orchard Lane, Poplar Creek, and PC as well. And we're going to be doing a session of just talking about answering any questions that they have about the transition from elementary to middle school, and then talking a little bit about what they can expect 7th and 8th grade as well. And then in April, Q4, Mr. Smith will hold his athletic and activities session for parents, and that will be coming up 2 months here. From a student perspective, really what this comes down to is we try to be very, very diligent about administrative visibility. We put it in our calendars every middle of the day. We are, unless something crazy is happening or there's a really, really important meeting, we try to block that middle of the day to be out in lunches. We have a variety of different areas that our students are in. It's an opportunity for us to engage with them at a different level, just kind of a more relaxed feel. So you'll see us out and about there all the time. We try to get into the hallways during all of our passing time. One thing that I mentioned with some of our staff committees is that we do a really big thing now. Every month, West Way Awards, we go into the lunchrooms in front of all of our students in middle school, and we kind of hype up, hey, you guys won awards. You were recommended as doing something really, really great throughout the school year this past month. We recognize it. We try to be the ones that are always giving the awards, so that's something that's big and that we recognize. And then we do our student and class meetings, which really just sets the tone for what our expectations are going into the school. This is a specific slide that talks about points of pride and then areas of growth in our building. This data is taken from our mid-year climate check from our staff survey. So you'll see the top 5 points of pride, the top 5 areas of growth, and these are specifically the comments, and they're boiled down into the common themes. So points of pride, overall, it's been our culture in our building, connections with staff, connections as a team, which I think is really important and is really, really big in terms of our survey feedback. Another big one that I think is awesome to see is that our students are very open to growth and learning, and that's how our staff feels about it, so that's great to see. Again, you see on there administrative and teacher leadership, which I think is great to see that it's not just coming from the front office, it's coming from across all parties, and then workload management as some of our points of pride. Areas of growth, I would say, as much as we try really, really hard to be great communicators, it's always something that we know we could be doing better on, and so we are very cognizant of that. I think this is, while it says no comment, you're probably wondering why that's up there. For areas of growth, the second most commonly put comment was no comment, so I'll take that as a win in my head. So another one is student behaviors, and I don't think that that's anything different than some of the conversations we've been having across the district. It's just how we work with our students. And from our end, I think the big thing this year, and it ties back to that communication point, is really making sure that we are in constant communication with our students. How we can support students, and then how are we supporting our teachers when those things are popping up. And then you'll see professional learning, something that we're going to continue to work on and talk about how we improve that. And then as always, which is not surprising, the work. And I'll just highlight again, like I said, this is something we don't take lightly. We are very, very invested in it. Our staff surveys continue to be the best throughout all the schools in the district or at the top almost each and every year. And it's something that we really spend a lot of time to be diligent about, and hopefully it'll continue to go that way and shine through. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cody Smith, the Director of Athletics and Activities at New Berlin West, and I'm here to talk to you about all or most of the amazing things that our students are doing outside of the classroom. And so as an admin team with our unique 712 building structure, one of our focuses is always making sure that we're creating a middle school experience for our students. And so as you look at this, here are some of the things that we've been doing to support specifically those middle school students. So Mr. Napoli mentioned it, but we have our middle school staff committee that's focused on ensuring that they're getting those pieces. And so some things that we've done is a trip each semester. So this past semester they went roller skating, and then coming up they'll be attending the Admirals game on their education day. We spoke about the Viking Way Awards that we give each month to the middle school, and that is just a big hit amongst the students there. Our middle school SALU group, or student government, is really taking some more ownership, and being the leaders for that group are 7th and 8th graders. And so they've conducted the holiday giving drive for multiple years now. They run their own dances. They've sponsored homecoming events so that our middle school students feel connected to our homecoming week. And then this year, their big initiative is taking over our community coop, which is a student resource center that we have in the building to support students. One of the areas of pride of our middle school is our continued growth of middle school theater. This year, for the first time in several years, we hosted a middle school only production that was kind of mentored by the high school students, but the cast and crew was all middle school driven. We build that into our high school play, where the middle school then kind of flips the page and goes from acting to the crew side. And now we're getting ready for opening night of Wizard of Oz, which is a joint production. We're very excited about that. Some other things to keep in mind: we continue to have a really high and engaged student population in terms of our population rate. So we're very happy that a lot of our students, the majority of our students, are choosing to engage in at least one extracurricular activity. A point of pride here is our student GPA among our athletes and our students involved in extracurriculars, sporting that 3.43 GPA. So we're really proud in that. And another thing that we dove deep into in the fall, as I was wrapping up my grad school work here, was looking at attendance and engagement data. And so we compared, the days missing of students that are involved in activities in athletics compared to those students that are choosing not to engage. And on average, our students that are involved miss 2 full less days of school. And so as an admin team and our student support team, we're building those conversations in for maybe some of our students that attendance is a challenge. How are we getting them connected to something to be more meaningful and to continue to build that school experience? We have a lot of celebrations coming, and being kind of the first school up, we're actually really gearing up for a lot of this. And so if you check back and keep your eye on social media, you'll see here lots of cool things coming up. So ACDEC won their regional. They're going to be competing in state soon with their sights on nationals. DECA is at state as we speak. They departed this morning. So hopefully if you stay tuned, we'll get a lot of good results from that. And our robotics team is gearing up for their competition season coming up here too in a couple weeks. The robot's built. All right, now we're fine-tuning and testing and getting it ready to compete. Kind of on the athletic side of things, I believe this was the 8th year that football has qualified for the WIA playoffs, reaching level 2 this year, following up on their level 4 performance last year. Our dance team was D2 state hip-hop champions this year with a thrilling routine. Then we had individual qualifiers in girls tennis, sending a doubles team for the first time in several years. We had representatives from our male and female cross-country team. We sent 4 wrestlers to state from both buildings in our united team. And our cheer team also qualified for the state championship this past weekend, to follow that up with our girls volleyball team becoming regional champions this year. And some other celebrations and points of pride kind of coming out of the Athletic and Activities Office. Our students are being representative and recognized for their achievements. We've had an Our School Player of the Week this year for football. Our football game between us and Eisenhower was the My 24 Friday Night Rivals Game of the Week on television, which is exciting. As an Athletic and Activities Office, we're always looking for continued partnerships amongst our business. And so we were able to bring in Vite Disposal as our premier sponsor for our Holiday Classic basketball tournament, building a new partnership with a new business in the area. A point of pride for me is the continued growth of women's wrestling. We had 5 individuals just from West last year. We are up to 10 this year, doubling the size of the team. 5 from both schools, so Ike and West were both represented this year, with 3 of them qualifying for state this past week and bringing home 2 state medals, a 5th and a 6th place for the Poplawski sisters. And as we look towards the spring and some of the things we've been doing this year, our athletic and activity offerings are continuing to grow. So this spring, we have boys and girls lacrosse that'll take off for the first time here. I'm partnering with Mugwanago as the host school for that. We followed in Ike's footsteps and we launched esports at West this year, so we're very excited about giving that. And then I touched on the middle school theater piece, but with Wizard of Oz, we're very excited. We have 12 of our district elementary students signed up to play the role of Munchkins coming up here for opening night. Their routine is memorized, I've heard, so we should be ready to go. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Fezemeyer.
And that brings our presentation to the close. Are there any questions?
Okay, maybe I have one. When it comes to the math and then the students moving out of algebra and into geometry,
Right.
is there any way to to measure that? Because that's a good measurement too, to see how many of the students out of the class have actually advanced even beyond that.
Yep. We do have those measurements internally as well. So as we present this data to you here, we try to present this data in a general way, but
Yep.
that is something we absolutely do track.
Well, then, thank you.
Okay, I just would just like it to say very quickly, my team, Jordan, to Cody, to Trudy. It's been a pleasure. This is my last, I believe, my last formal board presentation. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to work with you for the past 20 years. It's been absolutely outstanding. So just a quick thank you on that front, and with that, we will. So thank you.
Actually, I just want to say thank you very much. You have been an unbelievable inspiration for so many kids. It's been just a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, the next item, we actually, Brady, Kelly, and Amanda are at a conference, but the board has asked, somebody steal the clicker. But the board has asked us to provide the FastBridge data because we were revisiting, thank you, sir, thank you. Because we were revisiting the fall data presentation, this was delayed by a meeting. But I really just want to remind the board, this is the presentation schedule. I did share this with the board since last week, Thursday, when we had sent out the packet. And I want to actually get to the point of emphasis for the FastBridge at the elementary. A lot of this actually has mostly already been shared with the two previous presentations on things that we're working on. And for the secondary, again, these are the focal points. And you heard a lot of the things, a lot of similar themes in the West presentation that we're seeing here for the secondary. I would actually like to have Trudy come up. And Trudy, one of the things that we've informed the board on is moving into rehiring a math coach at the secondary level. You were a math coach at one time, but I will tell the board that based on feedback from secondary staff, Trudy's kind of one of our local experts as it relates to secondary math. But what do you believe that bringing back that position will do as far as, we've noticed some of the gaps, but at the same time, it's not true cohort data because again, we're pulling out those 63 kids and so on. But what is it going to mean as it relates to bringing back a math coach at the secondary level?
I can speak to our teachers oftentimes have looked for guidance from somebody. And I think in our building, they will often still come to me, like when they have questions about whether it's one of the big pieces I would say is our math support or our intervention classes. Just sometimes how to interpret that data and use it to create a plan for students that will help them develop the skills in math so that we see that growth that they're looking for, or using whether it's FastBridge data or in the past MAP data, how do you use that data to provide some ideas and instruction on different groupings you could do within your classroom. So it's how do you use that data to create instruction that's going to benefit all students that are in your classroom. Could be in Flex, could be just coming up with different ideas on how to support some of those struggling learners. And even as Michael had mentioned, sometimes those students that are in the middle group, so sometimes that 30th between the 60th percentile, teachers will say, I don't know how to get them up so that they're in that upper tier or that upper quartile. How do I move them? So I know that they're looking for guidance in those areas, and I think that role would play a huge part in that, even if it's the math coach going into the classrooms and giving the teachers feedback. Did you think about this? But using that data, the math support are going to be huge pieces, I would say.
That's a lot of the same information that we're getting at the elementary level. Again, we've focused a lot on literacy over the course of the last few meetings, but just wanted to kind of add the element of math, at least for this portion of it. If you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know. But I would like to, because of the sake of time, I would like to get to Angelina's portion. But any immediate questions from the board on the FastBridge stuff? All right, Angelina, you're up. Thank you, Trudy.
I'll be honest, Mr. Smith stole a lot of my thunder there, but as quarter 3 is underway, students are excelling through their busy schedules, ranging from acing their tests in the classroom to attending co-curriculars and being named sports champions. Students in Painting 2 have been working on their art pieces for the past few weeks and had their first critique last week, where they went around the room looking at different art pieces and giving acknowledgement and constructive criticism to the artists so they can better move forward with their creative process. Students in Mr. Dyke's Wars class participated in a World War I simulation, where students were divided into groups and assigned a country to dictate and vote for secretaries of state. Throughout this simulation, students learned how negotiations, treaties, and fighting were all incorporated to the start of World War I. Juniors have been working all year during advisory to help prepare for the ACT, which will be held in 2 weeks on March 12th. In advisory sessions, they covered tips and tricks for each segment of the test for students to best be prepared for what to expect. The Yearbook Club has been working diligently on the 2023 to 2024 yearbook and sent out a sneak peek to families. Senior quotes have been replaced with senior legacy, and senior students wish they would have been notified about this change earlier in the year. 2 students, Theron Alfers and Amelia Secre, were selected to represent New Berlin West at Badger State this summer for their positive leadership qualities. Boys Badger State will take place during June 6th through the 15th at UW Eau Claire, and Girls Badger State will take place June 16th through the 21st at UW Oshkosh. Another junior, Brody Haas, was selected to represent New Berlin West at the Wisconsin Leadership Seminar at Carroll University this summer during June 14th through the 16th for his exceptional leader qualities as well. Middle school English teacher Mrs. Hart was honored by Representative Dave Maxey at the Wisconsin State Assembly with the Hometown Hero Award for her unwavering commitment to the excellence in education, which has made an impact on the students at West and her dedication to shaping young minds. The girls' basketball season is officially over with varsity playing their final game against Waukesha West, winning 60-45, continuing their 4-game win streak. The girls ended with a 10-16 season game win report and will not be advancing to playoffs. However, our boys' varsity basketball team has a current 13-12 season game win report and will be advancing to the first round of playoffs, where they will face Wilmot at home tomorrow beginning at 7 p.m. Not only this, but freshman Jace Cook humbly broke a 32-year-old record by making the most 3-point baskets in a single season with 76, passing the original mark of 74. The New Berlin United Wrestling team competed at the WIAA sectional meet at Wilmot Union, where four wrestlers qualified for the state tournament that took place at the Kohl Center in Madison this past weekend. West sent 3 female qualifiers, sophomore Amelia Poplowski at 132 pounds, juniors Natalia Poplowski at 138 pounds, and Camilla Garay at 100 pounds, as well as senior Tommy Pera from Ike at 215 pounds. The wrestling sisters both won 3 out of their 5 matches, with Amelia Poplowski taking 5th in her weight class and Natalia Poplowski losing by a close decision to take 6th in her weight class. And finally, the NBW Palms team have had an amazing season so far, where they competed at Southern Regionals and took first place as regional champs in D2 Hip Hop and runners-up in D4 Palm. They then moved on to state, where they took first place again in D2 Hip Hop and naming themselves state champions, and now have 5 total D2 Hip Hop first place awards. They are now moving on to the national competition, where they will be competing in Orlando, Florida from March 1st to the 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have some district reports, which include the incident report, the enrollment report, the suspension report, and we have the donation report. Mr. Seidel, would you please read the donation report?
It'll be my pleasure. The first donation is for New Berlin West from PPG, support Statistics Field Trip at New Berlin West in the amount of $1,000. Second one is also for New Berlin West. Veet and Company, Inc. support New Berlin West with a holiday classic sponsor in the amount of $1,000. Third one is for Elmwood. Benson Electric support Elmwood with a monetary donation so sound equipment can be purchased for the musical in the amount of $3,000. Next is for Eisenhower Safeway Psychological Services to support United Boys Volleyball at Eisenhower in the amount of $5,000. Next is for Poplar Creek PTO to support the art program at Poplar Creek with a pottery and clay making funds in the amount of $2,533.55. Next was also for Poplar Creek PTO to support Poplar Creek with funds for the playground equipment in the amount of $5,000. Next was for New Berlin West, New Berlin Plastics Incorporated, support robotics at New Berlin West in the amount of $500. Next is for Poplar Creek, PAC, Class Holdings LLC to support the PAC with band sponsorship for the February 9th, 2024 concert in the amount of $2,000. The next one was for Orchard Lane PFC, support Orchard Lane with a grant for buses to the Wave game for the choir to sing the national anthem in the amount of $310.12. The next one was also for Orchard Lane PFC to support Orchard Lane with a monetary donation for books to be purchased for the school-wide Read Aloud Day in the amount of $2,142. Next was for New Berlin West, and it's Cronus. Support robotics at New Berlin West in the amount of $2,500, bringing our total donations to $24,985.67. I'm always amazed, and thank you so much to our generous donors. That ends my report.
Thank you. Then the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes the notice, the approval of minutes of the board meeting on February 12th, and our financial reports. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. On to the regular agenda. First on the regular agenda is to discuss approve the 2024-25 financial statement audit for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023.
So we have the district's auditor here, Mike Sama, to share and explain the financial statement audit for the previous fiscal year.
Thank you and good evening. Should all have, I'll just,
Working on it.
yep, I'll
We're getting there.
give a second for everyone to have that. And before I go into the report itself, just want to say thanks to Pat, Crystal, all the business office staff. We really appreciate the preparedness and just helping us go through the audit. It's a big job and it always goes smoothly, so thank you for that. Okay, so we have just a brief summary. Number one, the audit report contains an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, meaning the statements are fairly presented for this year's operations. Number two, the government auditing standards report on internal control and compliance over financial reporting did report one finding. That's simply the standard finding that we have every year for auditor preparation of the financial statements. I don't really know of any other districts that actually want to do their own statements, so pretty much every district has this finding, at least that we work with. So it's not really of concern, it's just a technicality. Number three, the single audit report on internal control and compliance over major federal and state programs contains an unmodified opinion and did not report any findings. Number 4, our letter to the board addresses our responsibility as auditors and what you can expect from an audit, and the financial statements states that there were no disagreements with management and we had no difficulties in performing this year's audit. And then last, there is a new accounting standard, which I know is very exciting. So this one is related to, it's the GASB keeps itself busy, I guess we can say. So this is related to subscription-based information technology arrangements, basically changing the way they're reported and accounted for. And the result of this, we had to make a small adjustment of $30,000 to implement the standard. So it was pretty immaterial. Okay, second page. I just wanted to talk briefly about kind of the two sets of statements you have and what the difference is. So on the top, you have the governmental funds statements. These conform to the DPI budget and annual report that you probably talk a lot about month to month. The district-wide statements, which is the second set of statements, these include all of the buildings, long-term debts, and pension figures that come from the Wisconsin retirement system. So that that really skews things a little bit because the pension figures fluctuate pretty dramatically year to year. I think this year it flipped from an asset position to a liability position, and that's kind of been the trend year to year. It goes back and forth. It's just actuaries making their best guess of what's going to happen in the future. So, but governmental accounting requires that to be reported, so we have to put those things on here. And they're considered full accrual statements, and the governmental fund statements are just more budgetary basis. So then we have just a brief summary of the general fund final budget. So you had, on a budget basis, the projected surplus of $2,124,478. Actual results, you had a surplus of $5,726,501. So that's good. And then the bottom is just a summary of how we had to make this adjustment for this new accounting standard. So the beginning fund balance, as reported last year, started at $48 million. There's an asset that gets recognized with this this new accounting standard. So you're paying a monthly subscription, but they're recognizing an asset for your right to use it, basically, which it's confusing. And then we have to amortize that asset over time. So you have the beginning amortization, and then there's a liability also associated for the amount you owe. So the net of all that was the $30,000 adjustment. And so there's our restated fund balance of $48,380,585. So, anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much, Patrick and team. As mentioned by Mike, Mike, it's I would say a pleasure working with you as our auditor. Is not the right words, but certainly appreciate your insights and conversation. Therefore, we are recommend approval of the financial statement audit for fiscal year ended June 30, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
I have. Technically, yes.
Okay.
So actually,
I'll just read it.
okay, we'll start over.
All right. I move to approve the financial statement audit for fiscal financial year ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the 2024-25 financial statement audit for fiscal year ended June 30th of 2023. Any discussion? Then all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes.
Riveting as always.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. And now we have discussed approve the 2025-26 school year calendar.
We have provided the calendar to the board. We are seeking approval. Again, this is not for next year, because that's already been approved. This is for the 2025-2026 school year. And we recommend approval as presented.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2025-2026 school year calendar as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the 2025-26 school year calendar as presented. Any discussion? All right, then all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. We have discussed approve the WAWM citizen petition to alter school district boundaries.
Yes, so in the packet, you've received both the specific request for detachment or petition for detachment, as well as a supporting presentation with regard to where we're going. We recommend approval of the detachment as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the WAWMO citizens petition to alter school district boundaries as presented.
As a point of clarification, WAWM stands for the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the West Allis, West Milwaukee citizen petition to alter school district boundaries. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Why are we approved? I thought we already approved this.
This is for the current school year,
Oh, wow.
or for next year. So the previous one has already been approved. That was approved by DPI. It was recently upheld in court at Waukesha County. West Dallas, West Milwaukee is yet to determine what they're going to do with that. This is for next school year.
So is this just a different group of houses?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Okay, that's what, yeah, I was wondering if there was new people.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, then all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Then we have a couple of action items from closed session. You're doing one?
I move to approve the employment services report as presented.
I have a motion by Ms. Spindler and a second by Ms. Crosby to approve the employment services report. Is that what you said? I'm sorry, I missed it. Employment services report as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. And one other one. Handbook.
I move to approve the employee handbook as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the employee handbook as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Is that it? Is there any? I don't think there was motions on those. Let me, no, that was, yeah, so that's it then for closed session. All right, so then we have our future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Monday, beginning at 7 o'clock PM in Conference Room E, which is where we are now, unless noted otherwise. So our next meeting is March 18th, then we have one at March 11th is the next one, then March 18th, that is the third Monday due to spring break, and then April 8th. Other important events dates to remember is that March 25th through 29th is spring break, there's no school, and April 3rd is the end of the quarter. It's time to adjourn, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Seidel and a second by Mr. Kurth to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand. The motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.